Hello everyone, welcome back. This video lecture is about physiological anatomy of spinal cord, and we are going to deal this under various headings. Like first we'll deal with the gross anatomy of the spinal cord, then we'll differentiate the spinal cord in the gray matter and the white matter, what all consists of gray matter, what makes up the white matter of the spinal cord, and at last we'll deal with the spinal segments, ascending and descending tracts, which are the major part of spinal cord, and understand how the lesions, how the anatomy of the spinal cord can lead to different symptoms of different lesions. So let us start with the gross anatomy. The spinal cord starts, it's an extension of the brain into the vertebral column, and it starts from the upper margin of C1 vertebra, and it descends and ends in the lower margin of L1 vertebra, where it is called as conus medullaris. That the end of the vertebral, the end of the spinal cord in the vertebral column is conus medullaris. Beyond that, there is a filamentous or fibrous sheath which descend, which carries the neurons. That is called as the phylum terminale. As you can see here, the phylum terminale extends up to the sacral and coccygeal level, and this is also surrounded by the dural sheath. As we have studied that there are three linings which are protecting the central nervous system, that linings extend in and descends with the spinal cord also, and the outermost lining here, as you can see, the dural sheath is extending up to the S2 level. So this spinal cord, as you can see here, is covered, the outermost layer is the dural matter, the dura mater, and the intermediate is arachnoid matter, and the innermost highly vascular will be the pia mater. And these are the layers which surrounds, which protects, and in between these layers lies the spaces where the cerebrospinal fluid is situated. And there is also a central canal, as you can see, which is extension of fourth ventricle, and this also contains the cerebrospinal fluid. One more thing to notice in this gross anatomy is the cervical and the lumbar enlargement. As you can see here, the cervical enlargement, which is the enlargement of the spinal cord, because so many neurons are arising from this segment to supply the upper limb. Similarly, the lumbar enlargement, this enlargement is because the more number of neurons are arising from here to supply the lower limbs. So cervical enlargement to supply the upper limb muscles and other supplies, and lower limb, the lumbar enlargement to supply the lower limb muscles of the lower limb. Okay, so the spinal cord is basically divided into two divisions. For the purpose of our study, we'll divide it into white matter, which you can see outside, and an H-shaped gray matter. So this is the transverse section of the spinal cord, and you can see a first and the major division of the spinal cord. It can be divided into white matter and the gray matter. The gray matter what you can see inside, and the white matter what you can see outside. Now this white matter itself can be divided into funiculus. The white matter can be divided into funiculus, and it is divided into posterior funiculus. This is the posterior aspect of the spinal cord, this is the anterior aspect of the spinal cord, and it is divided into left and right with the help of anterior median fissure. As you can see, this is the anterior median fissure and the posterior median sulcus. With the help of this anterior median fissure, posterior median sulcus, and posterior median septum, it is divided into left part and the right part, and this left part and right part is further divided into its gray matter and white matter. So let us see the single part. This white matter is further divided into funiculus, and the posterior part of the white matter of that half is called as posterior funiculus. The lateral part is called as the lateral funiculus, and the anterior part of the white matter is called as the anterior funiculus. So this is the subdivision of white matter in each half. The posterior funiculus, the lateral funiculus of the white matter, and the anterior funiculus of the white matter. Then comes the commissures. This is the anterior white commissure, and here the posterior white commissure is there, which connects the two parts, anterior white commissure and posterior white commissure, which connects the two halves of the spinal cord. Now coming to the grey matter. The grey matter, as we have told, it is edge-shaped grey matter present inside the white matter. This grey matter is made up of the cell bodies of the neurons. And what is making up the white matter? Mostly the axons, the tracts of the spinal cord makes up the white matter of the spinal cord. This grey matter is made up of the neurons, the cell body of the neurons. It is edge shaped, and it is the subdivisions of this grey matter are the posteriorly, which is present, is called the dorsal horn. The intermediate, the laterally, which is present, is called the lateral horn, and anteriorly, which is present, is called the ventral horn of the grey matter of the spinal cord. So the grey matter is further divided into dorsal horn, lateral horn, and anterior horn. Similarly, the white matter was divided into posterior funiculus, lateral funiculus, and anterior funiculus. So this is the major subdivisions of the white matter and grey matter. Now this grey matter is further represented by nucleus and laminas. The grey matter can be further divided into nucleus and laminas. Why nucleus? Because it is a collection of cell body in these horns from where the cell bodies are arising and going out as a spinal nerve or going upwards towards the brain as a ascending tract. So that is why the collection of those cell bodies which give rise to neuron, which goes up to the brain or down to the muscles, are called nucleuses. The collection of cell body inside the grey matter will be called as nucleuses, or it can be also divided on the basis of laminas, as we'll see. So grey matter can be divided into the gross division is dorsal horn, lateral horn, ventral horn, but it can be further divided into nucleuses or in laminas. So let us see what is the nucleuses present in the grey matter. So in the dorsal horn there are several nucleus, as you can see here. In the dorsal horn there are several nucleus, and the general rule is dorsal horn is related to the sensory aspect, to the sensory functions of the spinal cord, that is to receive the sensation and then to transfer it to the brain. So the dorsal part of the spinal cord is related, or it is responsible for the sensory function. And what are the collection of cell bodies, or what are the nucleus present in the dorsal horn? These are the posterior marginal nucleus. At the most apex, at the margin of the dorsal horn is the posterior marginal nucleus. Then comes the nucleus proprius. As we can see here, this lamina will be called as substantia gelatinosa, which has the function in pain suppression. You would have studied in the pain suppression pathway, pain suppression mechanism. This substantia gelatinosa is responsible, or its function is in pain suppression mechanism. Then occurs the nucleus proprius, which give rise to various tracts which ascends in the spinal cord and gives sensation to the brain. So those are arising from this nucleus proprius, especially the anterolateral pathway of sensation. The nucleus proprius is the one from where the neurons arises, crosses to the opposite side, and then ascends in case of anterolateral pathway. Then there is nucleus reticularis and nucleus dorsalis, or dorsal nucleus of Clark, or the nucleus of Clark. This one is responsible for giving rise. It is present in the cervical and the thoracic region of the spinal cord, and it is responsible for giving rise the sensation to the cerebellum. So the Clark nucleus or the nucleus dorsalis is responsible for the sensation to the cerebellum. Now coming to the lateral horn of the dorsal column or the the lateral horn of the spinal gray matter. So as we would have studied in the autonomic nervous system, we have discussed in the previous video lectures about the autonomic nervous system, and the lateral horn of the gray matter of the spinal cord is responsible for the neurons supplying the autonomic neurons arising from the spinal cord. So this nucleus intermedullaris is responsible to give rise the neurons which are coming out from the spinal cord as a sympathetic or parasympathetic output. So the cell bodies are located in the nucleus intermedullaris, and from here arises the neurons for the autonomic nervous system, and it is located where? In the lateral horn of the gray matter of spinal cord. Now coming to the ventral horn or the anterior horn of the spinal cord, from here arises the motor neurons, the alpha motor neuron and the gamma motor neuron, and these are divided into medial nucleus and the lateral nucleus. The nucleus motoris lateralis or the lateral nucleus and the medial nucleus of the motor neuron are located in the anterior horn of the spinal gray matter. So dorsal horn responsible for the sensory, in which the nucleus proprius, posterior marginal nucleus, substantia gelatinosa, nucleus reticularis, and nucleus dorsalis or the Clark's nucleus is responsible for sensory mechanisms involved in the spinal cord, and which are present in the dorsal column of the spinal cord. The lateral column, the nucleus intermedullaris, responsible for the autonomic output, and the anterior horn is responsible for the motor output to the somatic muscles. The somatic motor output or voluntary control of the muscles is done by the anterior horn of the spinal cord. Apart from nucleuses, the gray matter of the spinal cord can also be divided into laminas. As you can see, there are 10 laminas indicated in the Roman numbers. Lamina number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the 10 would be the one forming the gray commissure. Okay, so it is divided into 10 laminas, and the lamina 1 to lamina 6 is the dorsal root of the gray matter or the dorsal horn of the gray matter. Lamina 1 to lamina 6 corresponds to the dorsal horn of the gray matter. Lamina 7 corresponds to the lateral horn. Lamina 8 and 9 corresponds to the anterior horn, and lamina 10 is the gray commissure, which is present, anterior gray commissure and the posterior gray commissure. Okay, so laminas, as you can see, which is further division of laminas. The lamina 1 is the posterior marginal nucleus. Lamina 2 is substantia gelatinosa. Lamina 3 and lamina 4 are the nucleus proprius. Lamina 5, lamina 6 are the dorsal nucleus, nucleus dorsalis or the Clark nucleus. From lamina 7 arises the intermediolateral horn, and from there the nucleus intermedullaris from the lamina 7, and from lamina 8 and lamina 9 is made up of the anterior horn, which give rise to the motor neurons. So there are divisions of gray matter of spinal cord in terms of nucleus also, and in terms of different laminas, which corresponds to the different nucleus of the gray matter of the spinal cord. Now coming to the white matter of the spinal cord. So as we have studied earlier that the white matter is divided into funiculus, the posterior funiculus, lateral funiculus and anterior funiculus, and these funiculus are made up of the tracts, the neurons, the axons of the neurons, which are either coming down from the brain, from the central nervous system, from the brain down to the spinal cord in the form of descending tracts, or they are made up of the ascending tracts, which are the neurons which are arising from the periphery, from the dorsal root ganglion, and ascends to the brain, or which are arising from these cells from the dorsal horn and crossing to the opposite side and ascending in the white matter in the spinal cord. So the white matter is mainly made up of the descending and the ascending tracts. As you can see here, we have already had the class of descending tracts and ascending tracts. Just revising one more time that the ascending tracts, the major ascending tracts are the dorsal column medial lemniscus pathway, which carries the sensation of touch, the fine touch, the vibration, the proprioception, and there comes the spinothalamic, that is the anterolateral pathway, in which the anterior spinothalamic tract and the lateral spinothalamic tract are present, which carries the crude touch pressure by the help of anterior spinothalamic tract and pain and temperature by the help of lateral spinothalamic tract. Then comes the spinotactile tract, spinocerebellar tract, which are also the ascending tracts to the colliculus or to the cerebellum. Then coming to the descending tract, the lateral motor system and the medial motor system. The lateral motor system comprises of the lateral corticospinal tract and rubrospinal tract. The medial motor system comprises of anterior corticospinal tract, vestibulospinal tract, reticulospinal tract and tectospinal tract. So these are the major ascending and descending tracts which comprises the white matter of the spinal cord. So let us see, as they ascend, this is how the various ascending tracts are represented in the spinal cord, where they are synapsing in the medulla, or if they are synapsing in the pons, or in the midbrain, or in the thalamus. From the thalamus they go to the sensory somatosensory cortex. So this is a simple representation of each tract. To understand the lesions of spinal cord and their different symptoms, we need to understand where the tract crosses to the opposite side. That is how, if there is a hemisection, there will be a different kind of lesion, different kind of symptoms because of hemisection of the spinal cord as compared to the full section of the spinal cord. So there lies the difference in the symptoms, or to diagnose whether it is a hemisection or full transaction of the spinal cord. The symptoms we have to understand on the basis of where the spinal cord is crossing over to the opposite side. We will discuss the major two tracts, the dorsal column medial lemniscus pathway and the spinothalamic pathway. So the dorsal column, as you can see, consists of fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus. These two are the major dorsal column. These two are the one which makes up the dorsal column medial lemniscus pathway, and they crosses to the opposite side in the medulla, not in the spinal cord. So when they are traveling in the spinal cord, they are carrying the sensation of the same side of the body, whereas the spinothalamic tract crosses to the opposite side in the spinal cord itself, not in the medulla. It crosses to the opposite side in the spinal cord itself, and that is why it is carrying, when it is ascending in the spinal cord, it is carrying the sensation of the opposite side of the body, not the same side of the body, as in the case of the dorsal column medial lemniscus pathway. So dorsal column carries the sensation in the spinal cord, at the level of spinal cord it carries the sensation of same side, whereas at the level of spinal cord, the spinothalamic tract carries the sensation of the opposite side as they are crossing over to the opposite side as soon as they enter, or above 2-3 spinal segment they crosses over to the opposite side of the spinal cord. That is why they carry the sensation of opposite side of the body in the upper spinal segments. So where these ascending tracts are located, we will see here. This is the white matter of the spinal cord, and in this white matter the fasciculus gracilis, which carries the touch sensation of the lower limb, is present medially in the white matter of the posterior funiculus. As you can see, posterior funiculus is occupied by the dorsal column medial lemniscus pathway. So this dorsal column medial lemniscus pathway is divided into two parts, that is the one coming from the lower limb and the one arising from the upper limb. The one coming from the lower limb is located medially in the form of fasciculus gracilis, and the one coming from the upper limb is located lateral and in the form of fasciculus cuneatus. These are carrying the sensation from the same side, which will then cross over to the opposite side in the medulla. Now coming to the other tracts which are present on the lateral funiculus. So as you can see, in case of lateral funiculus there are other tracts, that is dorsal spinocerebellar tract which is present in the lateral funiculus, and lateral spinothalamic tract is present in the lateral funiculus. So dorsal spinocerebellar tract and lateral spinothalamic tract is present in the lateral funiculus. Now coming to the anterior funiculus, there is ventral spinothalamic tract or anterior spinothalamic tract, then spino-olivary tract, and then spinotectal tract. So these are the tracts, these are the bundle of axons which are travelling towards the brain, are the one which comprises the white matter of the spinal cord. And since it is represented one half of the spinal cord in this diagram, one half of the spinal cord is represented as ascending tract and one half of the diagram is represented as descending tract, this doesn't mean that they occur separately. They occur all together. Just for the sake of understanding, it has been represented separately. That means in our body, the ascending and descending tracts both will occur in one half, and in another half also both ascending and descending tracts will be there on the white matter of the spinal cord. This is just to understand. This representation is just to make you understand or to deal separately the ascending and descending tracts. Now coming to the descending tract, as you can see here, the descending tracts we have discussed the lateral and the medial motor system. This does not depict the crossing over. This diagram is just depicting the origin and how it descends. Here there is no representation that where it is crossing over to the opposite side. As the lateral corticospinal tract crosses over to the opposite side in the medulla, there is no representation here. So this diagram is just representing the origin of different descending tracts, not the actual course of the tracts. So let us learn about the descending tracts here. These descending tracts are situated in the form of medial motor system and lateral motor system. So what comprises the lateral motor system are the lateral corticospinal tract and the rubrospinal tract. One way of differentiating them is these are also present on the lateral part of the lateral funiculus of the white matter of spinal cord, and they will synapse to the lateral neurons in the gray matter also. So the lateral motor system, everything is lateral, whereas when we compare to the medial motor system, everything is almost located medially in the white matter, as well as when they synapse to the neurons, those neurons are also located medially in the gray matter. So the medial motor system located medially, the tracts and the neurons, and the lateral motor system, the tracts and the neurons also are located laterally. So the lateral corticospinal tract and the rubrospinal tract are in the lateral funiculus. And let us see in the anterior funiculus of the white matter, there occurs the olivospinal tract, the lateral reticular tract, the vestibulospinal tract, the ventral corticospinal tract, the tectospinal tract, and the medial reticulospinal tract. So these all are located on the anterior funiculus of the white matter. So this finishes our descending tracts as well as the ascending tracts. As you can see, different ascending tracts on the white matter and different descending tracts on the white matter. Then coming to the last slide is various spinal segments and their relation to the vertebral column. So from we will deal with the spinal segments and the spinal nerves. So from each section of the spinal cord arises a spinal nerve which is made up of two roots. The spinal nerve, which continues here as a nerve, which then goes on to supply the muscles, is made up of two roots. It is made up of the ventral nerve root and the dorsal nerve root. What comprises the ventral nerve root? From the ventral nerve root, the neurons which are arising from the ventral horn of the gray matter of the spinal cord, such as the alpha motor neuron, the gamma motor neuron, will then go on in the ventral root of the spinal nerve, and then they will continue as the spinal nerve. Okay, so these neurons are forming the ventral root. Apart from these alpha and gamma motor neurons, the neuron which are arising from the intermediolateral horn, the nucleus intermediolaterales, the nucleus which is present in the lateral horn, which give rise to the sympathetic and parasympathetic outflow, also passes through the ventral nerve root. Okay, so from the anterior horn and from the lateral horn, the neurons are coming out from the ventral nerve root. The sensory neurons, which are part of dorsal nerve root ganglion, are going to the spinal cord through the dorsal nerve root. As you can see, this is the dorsal nerve root and this is the dorsal nerve root ganglion. We have already dealt with what is a ganglion. It is the collection of cell body outside the central nervous system. So this is the collection of cell body which is a pseudo bipolar type of neuron. One end of this neuron, peripheral end, goes and becomes the sensory receptor, and the another end goes and synapse in the spinal cord or ascends in the spinal cord. So this makes the dorsal root, the sensory segment of the nervous system are coming inside from the dorsal nerve root to the spinal cord and synapse here, and they might ascend up to the brain or cross over to the opposite side and ascend up to the brain. So that is about the spinal nerves. Now what are the spinal segments? As you can see, the spinal cord is made up of various segments. It is made up of 31 segments. That is, there are 8 cervical segments, 12 thoracic segments, there are 5 lumbar segments, 5 sacral segment and 1 coccygeal segment. But these segments does not correspond with the segments or the vertebra of the spinal cord. As you can see, sacral and the coccygeal vertebra is way below the end of the spinal cord. The spinal cord is ending at the L1, the lower margin of the annual L1 vertebra itself. So these segments of the spinal cord, though they have all the segments, 8 cervical, 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar, 5 sacral and 1 coccygeal as corresponding to the number of vertebra, but they does not correspond or they does not locate at the same place of the vertebra. So the spinal cord are divided into segments which are similar to the number of the vertebra, but their locations differ from the location of the vertebra. So this is the spinal nerves and the spinal segments what we had to discuss in this last slide, and this forms the basis for the symptoms for the spinal cord lesion, which will be dealt in the next video lecture. Thank you for watching.